P. Allen Smith's Garden to Table is brought to you by Mountain Valley Spring and Sparkling Water. America's premium water since 1871 has been bottled in glass at the same natural spring source for over 140 years. You can learn more about Mountain Valley Water and home delivery at mountainvalleyspring.com.
And by the makers of Job's Organics Granular Fertilizers. Great results, less work. EasyGardener.com.
Coming up next, a show about setting the scene for an Easter feast. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Welcome to Garden to Table. Hey, I'm out here in the garden among these gorgeous wisteria trees, setting the table for some Easter fun. Now, we'll get back to this in just a little bit. In today's show, I'll show you how to dye Easter eggs using elements from the garden and your spice rack. We'll also make a wonderful mint tea punch and fresh spring salad with walnut sherry dressing. I'll also show you how to prepare this rack of lamb that's not only delicious, but really easy. And a little later, we'll bring all of those elements together to create a beautiful setting right here under these gorgeous trees. Hey, just to set the mood, I thought it might be fun to maybe clothe my friend here in some wisteria. This is a very special wisteria. In fact, this is Wisteria floribunda, or the Japanese wisteria that I've trained on a single trunk. Yes, wisterias are vines, but they can be trained as a single trunk, and there are 8 of these. Now, I have to say, this year they haven't bloomed as heavily as they have in the past. But just like us, I think from time to time they like to take a year off. And this year, they're not as heavy with these long racemes or blooms. You see, what's different about the Chinese versus the Japanese wisteria is that the Japanese has a longer raceme or flower than the Chinese wisteria has. Now, what I'm going to do to make these bloom heavily next year is make sure I get them fertilized through the summer, and then I'm going to do a little root pruning around the base of them, and this sort of jar them into this idea that, oh gosh, hey, maybe I need to get busy and start reproducing and producing flowers and seed for the next generation. This east side of the house with these 8 trees makes the perfect place for entertaining and even dining. There's just something about dyeing Easter eggs which takes me back to my childhood. We used to do it every year and it was always lots of fun. But I have to say, back then we used a lot of artificial food coloring. And today, well, there's a big push to use things more natural. So what I'm talking about today is sort of looking at various kinds of eggs, colors of egg shells, and also the different kinds of natural ingredients one can use to create beautiful colors, as you can see here. If you want yellow to orange, you can use the peel of oranges and lemons. If you're wanting something that has a pinkish color, almost purple color to it, you can use red cabbage, you can use red onion skins, beets are perfect. If you want green, spinach, chopped spinach works really well. You can also go to the spice rack, and there are many options there. For instance, here's paprika, and just look at the color of the eggs that this paprika has produced here. Very beautiful indeed. And then the cumin here, you can see, produces almost a pure yellow egg, which I think is really gorgeous. And if you want something really brown and dark, like this egg here, you can use a really dark roast coffee. And so if you're using eggs that are laid by hens that lay a brown egg, you're going to get a darker color. What I like to do is boil the eggs for about 10 minutes and then let them cool. And these are still slightly warm. Or you can go with a white egg, which will give you the clearest color. And if you're lucky enough to know someone who actually raises Aracanas, which is a breed of chicken that lays a blue-green egg, then you can start with those. This is really simple. You want to take 4 cups of chopped cabbage or 4 cups of chopped beets, whatever it happens to be. You got to stick with one color, otherwise you're going to end up with a big mess. And you're going to have a quart of boiling water going, and you drop those vegetables in there, and you let them cook about 15 minutes. And then you let them simmer for about another 15. And what you're trying to do is basically get all of the pigment out of the leaves of these vegetables. All right, now in this case, we're moving to the spice rack and we're going to use paprika. And with these spices, they're very intense. And so for paprika or cumin or coffee, any of these spices, you want to use 2 tablespoons. And what I've done is I placed 2 tablespoons of paprika into a quart of boiling water. And it's cooled off just a bit. And I'll bring it over here just so you can see. And that's what it looks like. It's amazing the color of egg you get. What I've done is I've taken a bowl and I've put 2 tablespoons of vinegar, just distilled vinegar, white distilled vinegar. If I had done cabbage in this, I'd be doing the same process. I would be straining off the liquid, and in this case you can see there's that paprika. And now it's mixed with the vinegar. Now your dye is ready, and it's just a matter of taking these eggs, and what I want to do is I want to drop in this one, a white one, and you can see really how it can stain your hands. Now you'll leave these eggs in here for as long as you like. The longer the egg is in, the more color it's going to take in. This is a white egg obviously, but I just want to show you, for instance with a brown egg, what will happen there with this particular color. So you get the idea here. You can see that they're already taking up the color, which is really kind of quite beautiful. Look at that. And I'm going to let these sit for about 30 minutes because that's what I did over here. And what I tend to do is I'll just sit the eggs out just on a hard surface like this, and then let them dry, and then as soon as they dry, I'll pick them up and put them in a crate like this, because I don't want the paper mache crate to take any of the color off of the eggs. I want them to dry completely. And look at that gorgeous color with the paprika. You see it, I touched it against a green one there, so you get a little green spot. And here's another one with the paprika here. These 3, or these 4 actually along here, are all from paprika. So there you have it. It's that simple, and they're all natural. And of course, keep these eggs chilled, and you can hide them and the kids can find them, and then they can be eaten. You can make a delicious egg salad. Entertaining guests in your home can be a mixture of excitement and terror. Now, one way to assuage the terror I've found is to plan ahead. There's some things that you can do ahead of time that can take the anxiety out of having your in-laws over, or friends or coworkers. Now, I'm a big list maker. I think it's really important, at least for me, to kind of keep it organized in my head and to write it down. You know, the first thing you want to do is you want to choose a menu that is appropriate to the guest list. And you want to make sure that the things that you choose, that you're going to serve, are items that can be prepared ahead of time. None of this last minute stuff, because that'll make you crazy in the kitchen and you can't spend any time with your guests. And of course, it's important to think about the guests you're having. Are there allergies that you need to consider? Should you have vegetarian options or vegan options for them? So once you have the guest list in your mind, the recipes set aside, then you can begin making your ingredients list. You see, I like to plan things well in advance and actually do little parts of them along the way. So I may start 2 days ahead, and with my list I can go through and pull together things like the serving pieces I want to use, the bowls and dishes. I can also get the table set. You see, I've found if I can chip away at this with little bits along the way, it sure makes it a lot easier the day you're going to have everybody over. For instance, the tablescape. I want to think through the flowers. I'll actually try to get that set over the course of a day. Doesn't mean I have to do it all at one time. I may do fragments of it throughout the day or in the evening when I get in from work. I try to select flowers that are long lasting so I can get them done well ahead of time and even enjoy them. Like these alströmerias. These things will last for a week or longer. A perfect flower to think about if you're trying to do things well in advance. Now, speaking of thinking ahead, I've got another idea for you. Come on in the kitchen. I love to use fresh herbs, but if you're preparing a recipe, it's nice to have them already prepared. Let me give you an idea of what I do here. It's a great way to store herbs as well. I've taken some mint leaves, and after washing them and patting them dry, I have them here on a cutting board. And what I like to do is just go ahead and just chop these mint leaves in some coarse pieces. I'm going to use this in a punch So I just like big pieces of mint, not the whole leaf. So I don't want to chop these into itty bitty pieces. You see, this is just about right. Now this is about 2 tablespoons of mint leaves. And I just want to illustrate how I take these and place them in an ice cube like this. What's wonderful about this tip is they freeze fresh. And then what you want to do is just take just a little bit of water and fill up each one of these ice cubes. You get the idea. You put these in the freezer, they freeze, and then you can place them in a freezer bag. You can pull them out. You know that they're 2 tablespoons of fresh chopped herb, whatever it happens to be, that you can apply to soups, sauces, or in this case, a lovely tea. You see, these are all ideas that hopefully will help you get a little ahead of the game. Now I'd like to share with you a delicious recipe for a mint tea punch. It's the sort of thing that will dazzle your guests, and you can use mint from your garden, and I'll give you a compelling reason why to use mint from your garden in just a moment. But why don't we get started? The first thing you want to do is you want to take about 10 sprigs of spearmint, and you just want to crush the leaves or muddle it at the bottom of a mortise and pestle like this. You see, what I'm essentially doing here is bruising the mint leaves, because what I want are those essential oils in this tea. Now I'm just going to take and drop this in a pitcher. I'm going to take 3 family-sized tea bags, drop those in, and next all you do is add 3 cups of boiling water, which I have over here. And I'm just going to take this boiling water and go ahead and pour it in the pitcher like this over the tea. And I'm going to let this steep for about 8 to 10 minutes. Now it looks like it's almost ready. You know, what's interesting about this recipe is it only takes about 15 minutes. It'll serve 8 to 10 people. And here's the economy of having your own herbs. If you make this recipe with store-bought herbs, each serving is going to cost you about 63 cents. If you use herbs that you've grown, and who can't grow spearmint, you can create this recipe for 13 cents per serving. So think about that. Now all you have to do is lift out the tea bags and the mint. Now if you happen to leave a few fragments of the mint in there, it's no problem at all. Okay, next to this warm solution, you're going to add 1 cup of sugar. You want that to completely dissolve. And then 1 cup of orange juice. You can see this is going to be really good. And 1/4 cup of lemon juice. See, the sugar dissolves very quickly because it's very warm. And then to finish it off, you're just going to add 3 cups of cold water. You can garnish it with some lemons or some more of that spearmint. You can make this ahead of time. Your guests will love this, so give it a try. One of my favorite things to grow in my garden in the spring is lettuce, and there's so many wonderful varieties to grow. Now, you can certainly buy pre-washed lettuce in the grocery store, but have you ever compared homegrown, whether you grow it yourself or picked it up at the farmer's market lettuce, as opposed to that you buy in the bag that's pre-washed? Try it sometime. You'll find the difference in flavor is quite remarkable. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, I really want to know where my food's coming from. How the soil is prepared, how it was grown, how it was handled when harvested, how it was handled when it was packaged and shipped, and so forth. All these factors can have a bearing on your health. Now let's get back to varieties of lettuce. For instance, this is a butter crunch or a butter lettuce. Oh man, what a wonderful flavor. Now, it's not the sort of flavor that's going to knock you back. It's very subtle, very mild, even buttery. What I like to do is not overdress fresh lettuce. That's why I'd like to share with you this walnut sherry dressing. It is so good. It was created by a friend of mine who owns a restaurant, and let me tell you, this gal can really cook. You're just going to love this dressing. It is so easy to make, and the great thing about it is you can prepare it ahead of time. Keep it in the refrigerator. No reason to be doing this at the last minute. Now, some of the surprising ingredients include some walnut oil and eggs. Yes, what you want to do is you want to take 2 eggs, farm fresh if you can get them. You want to boil these eggs for only about a minute, because what you want is the yolk still intact, but you want the whites, there we go, slightly cooked. So what I'm doing is I'm just pushing the whites out. There we go, there's one, and here's two. I only cook them for a minute. So that's what the eggs will look like. What I'm going to do is just drop these into the blender like this. Now the next four ingredients I'll blend together, and I'm going to start with some sugar, 1 teaspoon of sugar, and then 1.5 teaspoons of minced garlic, and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1.5 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. Okay, now it's all blended together. Now what I want to do is add these 3 ingredients. I have 1.5 cups of vegetable oil, 1/2 cup of walnut oil, and 1/2 cup of sherry vinegar. All right, now I'm going to pour this in as it continues to blend. There goes the vegetable oil. Okay, so we've got everything blended together, it looks good. Now, the last ingredient that I want to add will be some cracked pepper. And you can use about 1 teaspoon of cracked pepper, but I like a lot more. This is just subject to whatever you prefer. So I'm going to put plenty of this in here. Now it's just a matter of applying it to this fresh homegrown lettuce. Now you can pop this in the fridge, or you can serve it just out of the blender like this. You just drizzle it over the lettuce. And I actually like to squeeze some lemon juice on the lettuce first before applying this. It just gives it a little more kick. This is so good, and I hope you'll give it a try. If you love lamb like I do, I think you're going to find this recipe really easy to do. It's one you can do ahead of time, and it's very flavorful. And it takes advantage of all that mustard in your refrigerator. I don't know about you, but somehow the mustard jars gather over time. With this, you can consolidate everything and use it on the lamb. What I'm doing is I'm starting out with 2 racks of lamb with 8 bones in each one of them, you can see here. Now, what I'm going to do to create this mustard and herb crusted lamb is to take the mustard. In this case, we're going to use 1/2 cup. And as I mentioned, you can take all those mustards and mix them together. This is a Dijon mustard, but you can have a coarse grain mustard mixed with, you know, just a typical hot dog mustard mixed with the Dijon mustard. It goes on and on and on. And then what you want to do is take some minced garlic, 1 tablespoon of that, and then 1 tablespoon of fresh thyme leaves. Here we go. And then all of this gets mixed together, and it will be applied to the lamb in just a moment. Now, to make this a crusted lamb, we're going to take a cup of Italian breadcrumbs and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to brown these breadcrumbs over medium heat here. There's the 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Just want to get the oil nice and hot. Now you want to make sure that you turn the oven on at 425 because we're going to cook the lamb for about 25 to 30 minutes at 425. You know, lamb is really a lot easier to cook than you think. A lot of people are intimidated by cooking it, but it's really not that difficult, and you'll see that with this recipe. Okay, I'm ready to add the breadcrumbs. So to really get the crusted effect, what you want to do is you want to brown these breadcrumbs because it'll make the finished product really crispy, which is good. So it's all about the texture here. You can see they're browning nicely. You need to move them regularly like I'm doing here so they don't overcook. All right, I think they're just about done. Time to take them off the heat so they can just cool right here. Look at that beautiful color. And while they cool, we'll turn off the stove. All right, now all the flavors of the garlic and the thyme are blending with the mustard. What you want to do then is take and just add some salt and pepper to the racks of lamb. I'm going to do both sides. Generous bit of salt and pepper here. And just kind of rub that in. And now it's just a matter of applying the mustard. What I'm going to do here is take about half of it on this one and about half on this one. Now you can actually marinate this lamb up to 6 hours before you cook it. And what I do is just mix it up and throw these in a freezer bag in the refrigerator. And I really like to just spread the mustard all over it like this, all on both sides. All right, so I've got them both covered in mustard, salt, and pepper. And now it's just a matter of taking the breadcrumbs and pressing the breadcrumbs into the top here. So they've cooled off enough. What I'm going to do is just take half of them, apply them here, the other half here, make a really nice crust on them. Plenty of breadcrumbs there. Just press them into the lamb like this, and like that. Very nice, beautiful. All right, and just press the crumbs into the mustard like I've done here. Separate those just a little bit, like that. And now it's just a matter of popping them in the oven. These need to cook for about 25 minutes if you want them medium rare. For medium, they need to cook for about 30 minutes. And they need to be served as soon as you take them out of the oven. They are so good. It's one of the easiest lamb recipes you'll ever try. And I hope you will give it a try. All right, in the oven you go. Now, you're probably not going to find this difficult to believe, but Easter comes in second, only to Halloween, for the most candy consumed for any holiday throughout the year. But get this, 7 billion pounds of candy are consumed at Easter. So here's just an idea. Maybe rather than filling the Easter baskets full of chocolates and jelly beans and eggs and so forth, how about some toys? Some toys or some things that will instill some creative activities. For instance here, some kits for baking, working in the kitchen, or some little tools for a sandbox or gardening. Here's a jump rope for little boys, maybe a baseball bat and baseball. Also some tools for gardening, maybe even the kitchen and cooking tools for the little guy, and also some sidewalk chalk, which is a lot of fun. These are just some ideas that will help the Easter Bunny get those kids out there doing some active, creative, and fun activities. I have so enjoyed putting this tablescape together. It's really been a lot of fun. There's so many of my favorite flowers and favorite things represented here. And I don't just mean all these beautifully dyed Easter eggs, of which there are probably 15 to 18 different colors, and the tulips, and of course these really fun alliums, which everyone wants to know about. They're the perfect conversation piece. It's actually an allium, an ornamental onion called Allium schubertii. It looks like something from outer space. I just love them, and they dry beautifully. Well, anyway, back to the tablescape. You can see that they're placed in these little vases or little inkwells that I've picked up at estate sales and yard sales and so forth, as did these napkins. Just look at them. They're vintage from, look like about 1975, and they were $1 a piece. And the colors, well, they work beautifully here. So as you can see, the color theme here is lavender to purple with accents of, well, all the Easter colors, but plenty of golden eggs and mauve colored eggs and so forth. And then 2 tones of tulips and the bubble vases on either side. The white plates and tableware are on these rustic placemats, which I think work beautifully with this rustic old farm table and the benches. And of course the centerpiece, well, this is a basket that I found in a secondhand shop. It had already been painted this wonderful color of purple, and I thought, you know, I've got to save that for the Easter table. Hey, it all came together to make the perfect centerpiece for this Easter celebration. And just look at all those eggs that we created together. And they came from the girls right here at the farm. I just wish we could get them all here together so they could see their contribution to the table. Now, wouldn't that be a scene? Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Until next time, good eating and good health.
D.L. and Smith's Garden to Table is brought to you by Mountain Valley Spring and Sparkling Water, America's premium water since 1871, has been bottled in glass at the same natural spring source for over 140 years. You can learn more about Mountain Valley water and home delivery at mountainvalleyspring.com.
And by the makers of Job's Organics granular fertilizers. Great results, less work. EasyGardener.com.